Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. You grab your phone, scroll through the news, and the headline stops you cold. NATO troops open fire on Russian forces. Your coffee goes cold. Your hands go still. Because somewhere in the back of your mind, a place you've been trying to ignore for years, you always knew this day might come. This isn't a movie. This isn't a drill. This is the moment the entire world has been tiptoeing around since 2022. And today we're going to walk straight into it, no sugarcoating, no political spin. Just the raw, uncomfortable truth about what happens the day NATO and Russia stop talking and start shooting. Before we go any further, if you've never been on this channel before, now is the time to hit that like button and subscribe. We cover the stories that actually matter, the ones that shape your world whether you pay attention or not. Hit subscribe now because this is one series you don't want to miss a single part of. Let's paint the picture. It's a gray Tuesday morning somewhere on the eastern edge of Europe. Maybe Estonia, maybe Poland, maybe a stretch of frozen ground near the Suwalki Gap, that narrow 65-mile corridor that military strategists have been losing sleep over for a decade. A convoy of NATO vehicles is moving through the tree line. Routine patrol. Soldiers are tired, cold, running on bad coffee and muscle memory. And then contact. A Russian unit, either by order or by mistake, opens fire. 3 NATO soldiers are dead before anyone can radio it in. And just like that, the tripwire gets tripped. Now here's the thing most people don't understand. World War III, if it ever comes, probably won't start with a dramatic speech or a mushroom cloud on the horizon. It'll start with a Tuesday, a mistake, a miscalculation, a moment where someone pulls a trigger and there's no taking it back. That's how wars actually start. Not with villains twirling mustaches. With exhausted men in the wrong place at the wrong time. The second those NATO soldiers fall, a clock starts ticking. Article 5 of the NATO Treaty, the most consequential paragraph in modern history, says that an attack on one member is an attack on all. It's the backbone of the entire alliance. It's the reason countries like Latvia and Lithuania sleep at night. It's the promise that's kept the peace in Europe for 70 years. But now that promise has to be kept. And keeping it means 32 nations, including the United States, the United Kingdom, France, and Germany, are now technically at war with a nuclear power. Let that sit for a second. Not a proxy war. Not supplying weapons from a safe distance. Not strongly worded statements from Brussels. A real war. Soldiers, tanks, missiles, and the full weight of the most powerful military alliance in human history, pointed directly at Russia. And Russia, for its part, has spent the last 3 years reminding everyone, almost obsessively, that it has the largest nuclear arsenal on the planet. Within 48 hours, financial markets across New York, London, and Sydney are in freefall. Not because investors are cowards, because they understand what this means before most governments have even finished their emergency meetings. Fuel prices spike overnight. Grocery shelves in cities across Europe start looking thin. Families in Manchester, Melbourne, and Minneapolis are suddenly doing math they never thought they'd have to do. How much food do we have? Where are the kids? What does this mean for us? Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. When NATO goes to war with Russia, there is no civilian anywhere in the Western world who gets to sit this one out emotionally. Economically, psychologically, this touches everyone. Now let's talk about what actually happens on the ground, because this is where most people's understanding completely falls apart. Everyone imagines this massive, dramatic charge. Thousands of tanks rolling across open fields. Fighter jets screaming across the sky in neat formations. Something cinematic. The reality is far messier, far darker, and honestly far scarier. NATO's first response wouldn't be a ground invasion. It would be electronic. Cyber attacks targeting Russian command infrastructure. Communications blackouts. GPS jamming across entire regions. Before a single additional bullet is fired, both sides would already be fighting a war that's completely invisible to the naked eye. Then come the airstrikes. Precision missiles hitting Russian military positions, not Moscow, not civilian centers, but forward operating bases, supply lines, radar installations. NATO's air superiority is genuinely overwhelming. Russia knows this. Russia has always known this. But here's where it gets complicated. Russia's strategy was never to win a conventional war against NATO. Their strategy, and this is something their own military doctrine openly states, is to make the cost of fighting them so unbearable that the other side quits first. They call it escalation dominance. You hit them, they hit harder. You escalate, they escalate further. And somewhere in that spiral, they start putting nuclear weapons on the table. Not necessarily to use them, but to make you flinch. This is the part of the conversation that makes every serious military analyst go quiet for a moment. Because the moment Russia feels genuinely threatened, not just embarrassed, not just losing ground, but existentially threatened, their nuclear doctrine allows for first use. They've said it publicly. They've written it into their military strategy. This isn't speculation or fearmongering. It's documented policy. And NATO knows this, which means every decision made inside that first week isn't just about military advantage. Every decision is made with one eye on the question nobody wants to ask out loud. How far is too far? Leaders in Washington, London, and Berlin are sitting in rooms with their top generals, staring at maps, and privately wrestling with something no politician ever gets elected to deal with. You push too soft, you look weak, Russia advances, the alliance fractures. You push too hard, and a man in a bunker somewhere outside Moscow starts making the worst decision in human history. There is no clean option. There is no good answer. There's just the least catastrophic path forward, and praying you can find it before the situation finds it for you. Back in the real world, your world, things are changing fast. Military reservists in the UK, Germany, and across Eastern Europe are getting calls they always half expected but never fully prepared for. Families are having conversations at kitchen tables that feel surreal. Parents are looking at their 18 and 19-year-olds differently. In America, the draft hasn't existed in 50 years. But Congress is already in emergency session. And the word nobody wants to say, conscription, is now being used in the same sentence as, if this continues. Energy prices don't just spike. They shatter. Europe, still rebuilding its energy independence after cutting Russian gas, is now in crisis mode. Heating, manufacturing, food production, everything tied to energy is suddenly precarious. And perhaps most quietly devastating, the psychological weight of it all. The constant refresh of the news. The 3 a.m. anxiety. The strange guilt of going to work, living your normal life, while somewhere in Eastern Europe the ground is shaking. That weight is real, and millions of people across America, Britain, and Australia are carrying it whether they admit it or not. Here's what this entire scenario forces us to confront. The post-World War II order, the one built on alliances and deterrence and the belief that mutually assured destruction would keep the major powers in check, was never a permanent solution. It was a pause. A long, fragile, incredibly lucky pause. And pauses end. The world you grew up in assumed certain things were impossible. That Europe was done with large-scale war. That nuclear weapons were props, not possibilities. That the adults in the room would always find a way to step back from the edge. This scenario, NATO-Russia direct conflict, doesn't just challenge those assumptions. It demolishes them completely. If this video made you think, if it made you feel something, then it did exactly what it was supposed to do. Because the worst thing any of us can do right now is look away. The second worst thing is panic. What's left, the hard, uncomfortable middle ground, is staying informed, thinking clearly, and understanding the world as it actually is, not as we wish it would be. If you want more content like this, real analysis, real stakes, no fluff, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below and tell me honestly. Do you think NATO and Russia will ever reach this point? I read every single one. Share this video with someone who needs to see it. And I'll see you in the next one.